Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. You might take issue with the early 20th century American adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words, when it comes to portraits of Civil War soldiers, even those who are unidentified. To me, it seems like 1,000 words just isn't enough when you consider the value of these artifacts as a window into our past, a remembrance of the generations who have come before us, the people whose shoulders we stand upon, and those who participated in the great struggle during those tumultuous times of the early 1860s. Here is one such image of a citizen soldier, his name having become separated from his likeness at some point over the last 160 years. And because we don't know his name, the particulars of his life and his military service are also floating somewhere out there in the ether, drifting in the clouds of memory, waiting to be found and reunited with his name and his face. This artifact contains evidence that can help us in our search. What we see in the print and the photographic format itself are clues that can help us. Let's begin with what we see in the photograph. He's a clean shaven man with short hair. He wears a light colored robe, perhaps made of flannel, judging by the slight coarseness of the material, with dark trim along the front opening and the collar. A drawstring secures the robe around his waistline, and the top button from his underlying military vest adds additional support around the collar. A crisp white shirt, stiff collar, and a generous silk bow tie suggest he is far enough along in his recovery to wear relatively restrictive clothing. His trousers, with the thick hemmed bottoms, appear to be standard issue rather than the kind of custom tailored pants that he would have purchased out of his soldier's pay. His shoes tell us why he is dressed in that hospital robe. On his right foot is a soft slipper, a stark contrast to the polished leather brogan on his right foot. The slipper tells us something happened to that right leg or the foot, perhaps a battle wound, an accident in camp, or while on campaign. Maybe he slipped and injured himself playing baseball, or perhaps he cut himself and the cut became infected. Whatever happened, we see the leg in question is angled slightly forward, gently bent at the knee, and his right hand, balled into a fist and resting on his hip, suggests he's favoring that leg. Now, you also see the pair of crutches leaning against the draped column. They tell us that no matter what confident look he's giving us, he made his way to the studio with the assistance of those crutches. And you can see, if you look closely, the mud caked bottoms of the crutches indicate that somewhere getting into the gallery put some pressure on the bottoms as he made his way into the studio. Now, there's another item worth pointing out. It's in his left hand. It's his felt hat. I'm going to share with you a detail of that. It's a plug hat or pork pie style. Was popular among the soldiers. You students of the Civil War may think about Phil Sheridan famously wearing his pork pie. This particular soldier has turned it to show us the insignia on the front. You can see that infantry horn right up there in front. There's a braid around it with acorn ends. Of special interest is the letter C right in the middle of the horn, and below it, a 4 on one side and a 0 on the other. Did he serve in Company C of the 40th Infantry of some unknown state? Or is it a 4 and an O? Maybe a bit of personalization to tell us he served in the 4th Ohio Infantry. If he did serve in the 4th Ohio, the regiment's service record fits nicely with the image. The Buckeyes of the 4th served for 3 years in the Eastern Theater, much of the time with the Army of the Potomac, mustering out in June of 1864. During its many engagements, including Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, and Gettysburg, the regiment suffered 302 casualties. Now, let's go back to that image and let's take a look at the background. The aforementioned draped column is a classic bit of imagery of Greco Roman architecture. It symbolizes stability and strength, education, law and order, and permanence. In context to the Civil War, it might also be a subtle suggestion or a not so subtle suggestion of supporting the pillars of the Democratic Republic. The painted backdrop reveals trees, mountains, a glassy lake with a boat plying the still waters. The bucolic scene of the unspoiled countryside suggests peace and tranquility, a landscape that inspires, a place we all want to be. It is also the exact opposite of the battle scarred landscapes that this citizen soldier may have witnessed during his service. Now, let's turn our attention to the photographic format. It's about the size of a modern trading card. It's a French import known as the carte de visite, known in America as the card photograph. It tells us something about our sitter. Card photographs are, as I mentioned, about the size of a modern trading card. They were wildly popular, coincident with the beginning of the war, and resulted in the invention of photograph albums. You can see the ends, the very corners of this image are ever so slightly trimmed, and that was done on purpose so that they would slide easily into those albums. So at one time, this image wasn't an album. These images, these card photographs, these carte de visite, were the Facebook of the 1860s, purchased by the dozen and given away to family, friends, and comrades and other admirers, widely collected. He likely chose this style instead of a tintype or an ambrotype, those artisan, one of a kind portraits on plates of iron or tin. They were more appropriate for the mantle, the bookshelf, or the bedroom table rather than for public consumption, still extremely valuable to the soldier. The photograph also helps us date the image. Beginning in August of 1864, the federal government levied a tax on photographs, popularly known as the sun tax, to help pay for the enormously expensive war. Photographers are required to fix a stamp on the back. This image doesn't have one, suggesting it was printed no later than July of 1864. But there is something on the back, the faintest marks of a pencil inscription that are frustratingly unreadable, even after multiple attempts to increase the contrast and make other adjustments. There's also, as you can see, the photographer's imprint, which includes the name and the location of the studio. Wolff's Gallery, WOLFF, 10 Royal Street, Alexandria, Virginia. Tracing the name Wolff to an active photographer in Alexandria during the war has proven elusive so far. Searches of genealogical records, newspapers, and other periodicals have yielded a little detail. Thanks to advertisements in newspapers published in the Baltimore Sun in 1863, we learn that Wolff, his first name unknown, had plans to return to Germany and was seeking a buyer for the business, advertising in several newspapers in the region. Whether or not Wolff found a buyer is not known, but an image search on Google reveals card photographs with the same imprint, the Wolff imprint, but with other names. One of them is named Oppenheimer. There is a photograph with this surname, Ben Oppenheimer, who operated a gallery in Alabama. However, I haven't found any links to him being in Alexandria, at least not yet. The other name mentioned is Hall, who may be Alexander M. Hall. Life dates about 1843 to 1929, a Marylander, which fits nicely with the Baltimore Sun, who was documented to have worked as a photographer in Alexandria in the 1870s. The location of Wolff's Gallery becomes interesting. It was in the heart of Alexandria, just 4 blocks from the Potomac River waterfront and 2 doors away from the main thoroughfare of King Street. News reports during the war provide some insights into Wolfe's gallery. In the summer of 1863, about the time Wolfe was advertising the sale, a band of soldiers attempted to walk off with photographs without paying and knock down the individuals who tried to stop them. They didn't get far before they were arrested and hauled before the military police. Later that year, with Christmas shopping in full gear, the gallery stocked an array of French made albums, cases, and lockets, plus large sized, color tinted photographs. Just a couple months later, a fire destroyed goods and chemicals valued at $250, or about $6,500 today. A serious fire. If you look at period maps, you'll see the gallery was located close by banks, a market, and a block from Marshall's Tavern, where you students of the Civil War know in May of 1861, James Jackson, the innkeeper, in his late 30s, leveled a shotgun and fired it into the chest of Elmer E. Ellsworth, the charismatic colonel of the 11th New York Infantry, credited with popularizing the Zouave uniform style just before the war. Ellsworth's U.S. Zouave cadets from Chicago, dressed in their Zouave uniforms, toured the United States the previous summer, wowing audiences across the North and Midwest. Now, Ellsworth was gone, but in his death, the North had a martyr to avenge. Fort Ellsworth, named in his honor, stood just west of the city limits. South and west on Eagle Hill was perched Fort Lyon, a battery on Jones Point, located along the Boot, protruding into the Potomac and Hunting Creek, protected against enemy vessels. Alexandria also served as a military hospital hub. According to a history of the city, quote, by the end of the war, more than 30 military hospitals were located in Alexandria with 6,500 beds. Churches, homes, the city's largest hotel, and other buildings were taken over as medical facilities. A Quaker meeting house, a girls' seminary, a home belonging to the family of Robert E. Lee, all accommodated wounded and diseased patients. Elsewhere, hospital complexes extending over city blocks were built based on plans drawn up by the Quartermaster General in Washington. Their main features were long ventilated barracks, usually made of wood, in which patients could be divided into wards. End quote. One of the largest hospitals, Mansion House, was the setting for the PBS series Mercy Street, 2016 to 2017. It was located just 2 blocks from Wolfe's Gallery. It's easy to imagine that the soldier in the photograph made his way from Mansion House or one of the many other hospitals in the vicinity of Wolfe's establishment to pose for his likeness on those crutches. The items we see in the image are all clues to help us appreciate who he is and what happened to him. But we still don't know his fate, at least for now, so he remains a representative example of the young men who were injured in service of the Union and the Constitution. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.